The stars burned in the darkness of space as massive ships moved like hungry beasts through the void. The Zephyrian armada stretched across light years, their black hulls gleaming with alien metal that seemed to drink in starlight. At the front of this terrible fleet, Warlord Kethvar stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching another world die. The planet below had once been home to 12 billion beings. Cities that had stood for thousands of years crumbled under the weight of Zephyrian weapons. Green forests turned to ash. Blue oceans boiled away into steam. The defenders had fought bravely, but their ships were nothing against Zephyrian technology. Energy shields that had protected them for centuries meant nothing. Weapons that could crack moons bounced harmlessly off Zephyrian armor. Kethvar smiled, showing rows of sharp teeth. His purple skin was marked with scars from 100 battles across the galaxy. He was 8 feet tall with 4 arms, each ending in claws that could tear through steel. His yellow eyes watched the planet's death with pleasure. "Another world falls to our might," he said to his second-in-command, General Thexmar. "How many does that make?" 17 star systems, my lord," Thexmar replied. "Over 200 billion slaves taken. 43 different species now serve the Zephyrian Empire." The numbers pleased Kethvar. 3 years ago, his people had been a small empire in the outer reaches of the galaxy. Now they were the most feared force in known space. Every species that had tried to stop them had failed. The mighty Andromedians with their crystal ships, the warrior clans of Draxus with their plasma cannons, the ancient Kalari with technology older than most stars, all had fallen before Zephyrian power. On the other side of the galaxy, Admiral Veltash of the Andromedian Defense Corps watched the same planet die on his long-range sensors. His crystal ship hung in space like a beautiful work of art, but beauty meant nothing against the Zephyrian war machine. His fleet of 30 ships was all that remained of the once mighty Andromedian Navy. "Sir, we're receiving distress calls from the colony," his communications officer reported. "They're asking for immediate help." Veltash closed his eyes. He had heard these same calls 17 times before. Each time he had been too far away or too weak to help. The Zephyrians moved too fast and hit too hard. By the time any rescue force arrived, there was nothing left but empty space and floating debris. "Can we reach them in time?" he asked, already knowing the answer. "No, sir. Even at maximum speed, we're still 6 hours away." 6 hours. The planet would be strip-mined and empty in 2. The Zephyrians were efficient killers. They took what they wanted and destroyed the rest. No mercy. No prisoners except for slaves. No negotiations. Veltash had tried everything. Surprise attacks that failed. Because Zephyrian sensors were too good. Defensive lines that crumbled because Zephyrian weapons were too strong. Joint operations with other species that ended in disaster because Zephyrian tactics were too brutal. Nothing worked against them. The Admiral looked at the tactical display showing Zephyrian fleet movements. Red dots marked their positions across dozens of star systems. They were spreading like a plague, consuming everything in their path. Intelligence reports said they had weapons that could crack planets, ships that could move faster than anything else in the galaxy, armor that could stop any known weapon. "Sir, there's something else," the communications officer said. "We're picking up a new signal. It's not from the colony." "What kind of signal?" "It's a distress beacon, but it's strange. The language is unknown. The origin point is listed as a system called Sol." Veltash frowned. In all his years of service, he had never heard of a system called Sol. "Where is it?" "Outer Rim, sir. Very far from any known trade routes. The signal is weak, but it seems to be acknowledging our broadcasts about the Zephyrian threat. A new species? Veltash wondered aloud. Show me their location. The star map shifted to show a small yellow star on the very edge of known space. It was so far out that most galactic civilizations had never bothered to explore that region. Too remote, too isolated, too worthless. What do we know about them? Veltash asked. Nothing, sir. No contact records, no trade agreements, no diplomatic relations. They don't appear in any galactic database. As far as official records go, they don't exist. Another unknown species about to be destroyed by the Zephyrian war machine. Veltash felt tired. How many more would die before someone found a way to stop Kethvar? How many more worlds would burn? Should we send a warning? His tactical officer asked. Veltash considered it. What was the point? This new species probably had primitive weapons and weak shields like everyone else. The Zephyrians would reach their system and destroy them just like all the others. But maybe, just maybe, they deserved a chance to prepare. Send them everything we have, he ordered. Battle reports, Zephyrian capabilities, tactical analysis, everything. If they're going to die, at least let them die knowing what killed them. The message transmitted across the void, racing toward the small yellow star. It carried with it the desperate hope of a broken admiral and the accumulated knowledge of 17 defeated civilizations, technical specifications of Zephyrian weapons, tactical patterns, ship designs, everything the galaxy had learned about, their unstoppable enemy. Light years away, Kethvar finished watching the colony world die. The planet was now a barren rock, its resources stripped away by massive mining ships. Another victory for the Zephyrian Empire, another step toward total galactic domination. What is our next target? He asked Thexmar. The industrial complex. At Kepler 442, my lord. It produces weapons for the resistance groups. Taking it would eliminate their ability to arm new fleets. Excellent. And after that? There are reports of a new species in the Outer Rim, unknown capabilities. A system called Sol. Kethvar laughed, a sound like breaking glass. Let them come. Let them all come. The galaxy will learn that nothing can stop the Zephyrian Empire. We are the apex predators of space. We are death itself. He was wrong. But he would not learn that for several more months. In the distant Sol system, something was stirring. Something that had been waiting and watching and preparing. Something that would change the course of galactic history forever. The message from Admiral Veltash raced through space, carrying warnings of destruction and death. Behind it, the Zephyrian armada continued its bloody march across the stars, unaware that their next target would fight back in ways they had never imagined. Deep beneath the Nevada desert, Admiral Jake Morrison stood in front of a wall of monitors that showed the darkest secrets humanity had ever kept. The Deep Space Command Center was buried 3 miles underground, protected by layers of concrete, steel and alien metal that most people didn't know existed. For 20 years, Jake had worked in these halls preparing for a day he hoped would never come. Today, that day had arrived. The message from Admiral Veltash played again on the main screen. Images of burning worlds, technical data about alien weapons, ship designs that defied human understanding, and warnings about an enemy that had never been defeated. How long ago did we receive this? Jake asked Colonel Lisa Parker, his chief intelligence officer. 18 hours ago, sir. We've been analyzing the data since it arrived. The Zephyrian capabilities are beyond anything we expected. Lisa was a small woman with sharp eyes and a mind that could process information faster than any computer. She had spent her career studying alien technology and developing countermeasures. Her work had been theoretical until now. Today, it might save the human race. Jake studied the tactical displays showing Zephyrian fleet movements. Red dots marked their positions as they swept through space like a wave of destruction. Each dot represented hundreds of ships and the death of entire civilizations. "Show me our response capabilities," he ordered. The displays changed to show Earth's hidden military assets. Orbital platforms disguised as space debris. Weapon systems built into asteroids, shipyards hidden on the far side of the moon, and, most importantly, the fleet that humanity had been building in secret for 2 decades. "Project Prometheus is ready for deployment," Lisa reported. "All ships are fueled and armed. Personnel are standing by for launch orders. Project Prometheus." The name still gave Jake chills. 25 years ago, humanity had intercepted alien radio signals from deep space. Not the Zephyrians, but other species talking about threats in the galaxy. Wars that lasted centuries, weapons that could destroy stars, empires that consumed entire sectors of space. Most world leaders had dismissed the signals as fiction. Jake had believed them. He had convinced a small group of military officers and scientists that humanity needed to prepare for the worst. They had worked in secret, using black budgets and classified research programs to build something the galaxy had never seen before. A human war machine. "What about Captain Ryan Scott's engineering teams?" Jake asked. "All ships are equipped with the new weapon systems," Lisa replied. "Kinetic projectiles, electromagnetic pulse cannons, and the quantum torpedoes. We've also installed the stealth systems and defensive countermeasures." Ryan Scott was the best engineer in the human fleet. He had designed weapons that worked on principles no alien species had ever considered. While other civilizations focused on energy shields and beam weapons, Ryan had gone back to basic physics. Mass moving at high speed could penetrate any known defense. Electromagnetic pulses could disable electronic systems regardless of their sophistication. Quantum torpedoes could phase through matter and explode inside enemy ships. The humans had advantages that came from being newcomers to the galactic scene. They had no preconceptions about how space combat should work, no ancient traditions that limited their thinking, no treaties that restricted their weapon development. They had spent 20 years building the perfect war fleet in complete secrecy. "Sir, we're receiving a transmission from President Martin Hughes," the communications officer announced. Jake nodded. "Put him through." The president's face appeared on the main screen. Martin Hughes was a former general who understood the reality of warfare. He had been briefed on Project Prometheus when he took office and had provided full support for the program. "Admiral Morrison, I've reviewed the alien intelligence data. How long before they reach Earth?" "Based on their current movement patterns, approximately 8 months, sir. They're systematically destroying industrial centers and population hubs. They'll reach the outer colonies first." "What are our chances?" Jake looked at Lisa, who nodded slightly. They had run the simulations hundreds of times. Human technology was different enough from galactic norms that standard tactical analysis didn't apply. "Unknown, sir. We have advantages they won't expect, but their raw firepower is immense. We estimate a 60% chance of success if we use surprise tactics and hit them before they can adapt." "Then we hit them first," the president said. "I'm authorizing Operation Starfall. You have full authority to deploy all assets." "Understood, sir. We'll begin mobilization immediately." The transmission ended, and Jake turned to his staff. For 20 years they had prepared for this moment. Now it was time to see if human ingenuity could stand against alien superiority. Lisa, activate all sleeper agents in the outer colonies. I want complete intelligence on Zephyrian movements. Ryan, begin final preparations on the fleet. All ships launch within 72 hours. Yes, sir, they replied in unison. Jake walked to the main tactical display and studied the positions of enemy forces. The Zephyrians thought they were facing another weak galactic civilization. They expected energy shields and beam weapons. They expected traditional tactics and predictable responses. They were about to learn that humanity was not like other species. On Luna Base, Captain Ryan Scott watched as the last of the human dreadnoughts completed final systems checks. The UES Retribution was the largest ship ever built by human hands, 2 kilometers long and armed with weapons that existed nowhere else in the galaxy. Her railguns could fire projectiles at 10% of light speed. Her torpedo tubes were loaded with quantum warheads. Her hull was covered in adaptive armor that could shift its molecular structure to absorb different types of energy. All systems green, his chief engineer reported. Ready for deployment. Ryan smiled grimly. The Zephyrians had conquered 17 star systems using conventional technology. They had never faced an enemy that fought like humans. They had never encountered weapons designed by minds that approached warfare from completely different angles. Begin. Launch sequence, he ordered. It's time to show the galaxy what humans can do. Across the solar system, hidden bases came alive with activity. Ships that had been waiting in silence for 20 years powered up their engines. Weapon systems that had never been tested in combat ran final diagnostics. Human crews who had trained their entire lives for this moment prepared to face an enemy that had never been defeated. In the command center, Jake Morrison watched the deployment begin. Hundreds of ships launched from secret bases, their stealth systems making them invisible to conventional sensors. They would take position along the Zephyrian advance route and wait for the perfect moment to strike. The galaxy was about to learn that Earth had been listening to their radio signals for decades. They had been watching and learning and preparing. They had built weapons and ships and tactics specifically designed to fight alien enemies. Most importantly, they had been waiting for someone to threaten their home. That wait was over. President Martin Hughes stood in the Oval Office, staring at a classified report that would have seemed like science fiction just days ago. Dr. Amy Watson sat across from his desk, her laptop displaying detailed analysis of Zephyrian biology and battle tactics. The xenobiologist had worked for 15 years studying intercepted alien communications and scattered debris from deep space encounters. Tell me about their weaknesses, Martin said. Amy adjusted her glasses and pulled up a holographic display of Zephyrian anatomy. They're carbon-based life forms, but their biology is different from anything on Earth. They have redundant organ systems, which makes them very hard to kill with conventional weapons. Their exoskeleton can stop most energy weapons. What about their psychology? That's where it gets interesting, Mr. President. They're apex predators from a world where they had no natural enemies. They've never faced an opponent that used tactics they didn't understand. Every species they've conquered has fought using similar technology and strategies. Martin nodded. And we don't. Exactly. They expect energy shields, so we use kinetic barriers. They expect beam weapons, so we use projectiles. They expect honorable combat, so we use deception and surprise attacks. The president walked to the window overlooking the White House lawn. Children played on the grass. unaware that alien warships were moving through space toward their planet. In 8 months, those children would either be free or they would be slaves in an alien empire. General Brooks is ready to brief you on our military response, Amy said. Martin pressed a button on his desk. Send him in. General Carl Brooks entered, the room carrying a metal briefcase. He was a big man with gray hair and scars from 3 different wars. He had commanded troops in every major conflict of the past 20 years. Now he faced his greatest challenge. Mr. President, we've completed mobilization of all Earth Defense Force units. Task Force Liberation is ready for deployment. Carl opened the briefcase and activated a holographic projector. The air filled with images of human ships and soldiers. Unlike the sleek designs favored by other galactic civilizations, human military equipment looked brutal and functional. Major Danny Coleman's 1st Orbital Strike Battalion is equipped with the new kinetic assault suits. They can survive in vacuum, and their weapons can penetrate any known armor. Captain Kelly Rogers leads our stealth corps. Her teams specialize in infiltration and sabotage. The display showed soldiers in black armor that seemed to absorb light. Their weapons were compact, but deadly. Electromagnetic rifles that could disable electronics. Explosive charges that used chemical reactions instead of energy sources. Close combat weapons designed for fighting in zero gravity. What about fleet capabilities? Martin asked. Admiral Morrison's ships are equipped with technology the aliens have never encountered. Our railguns fire solid projectiles at relativistic speeds. No known shield can stop them. Our stealth systems use quantum field manipulation to bend sensor waves around our ships. Carl changed the display to show human warships. They looked different from anything else in the galaxy. Angular where alien ships were curved. Armored where alien ships relied on shields. Bristling with weapon systems where alien ships had elegant lines. The UES Retribution is our flagship. Captain Steve Martinez commands her. She's armed with 12 railgun batteries and 60 quantum torpedo tubes. Her engines can accelerate to .7 light speed in combat situations. Casualties estimates? Martin asked. Carl's expression grew serious. Unknown, sir. We're fighting an enemy with superior numbers and firepower, but we have advantages they won't expect. Human tactics emphasize speed, aggression, and adaptability. We hit hard, move fast, and don't fight fair. Dr. Amy Watson pulled up another display. There's something else, Mr. President. Intelligence suggests the Zephyrians have never faced determined resistance. Every species they've conquered surrendered after losing a few battles. They're not prepared for an enemy that fights to the death. And humans will fight to the death? Sir, General Brooks said, human military doctrine assumes total war. No, surrender. No retreat. We either win or we make the enemy pay such a high price for victory that they regret starting the fight. Martin considered this. Humanity had always been good at warfare. Their entire history was a series of conflicts that drove technological advancement and tactical innovation. While other species had evolved in peaceful environments, humans had evolved as hunters and warriors. How do we coordinate with the galactic resistance? We don't, Carl replied. Not initially. Our first priority is to demonstrate human capabilities. Once the galaxy sees what we can do, they'll rally to our banner. Right now, they think we're just another weak species about to be conquered. The president walked back to his desk and sat down. 3 advisors looked at him expectantly. The weight of humanity's future rested on his shoulders. One decision would determine whether his species remained free or became slaves to an alien empire. Authorize Operation Starfall, he said finally. All units are to deploy immediately. Rules of engagement are simple. Show no mercy to any Zephyrian forces. Make them afraid to set foot in human space. Yes, sir, General Brooks replied. As the meeting ended, Martin remained in his office, thinking about the children playing on the White House lawn. They deserved a future where they could play freely under Earth's blue sky. They deserved to grow up without knowing the terror of alien conquest. Across the world, military bases came alive with activity. Transport ships launched from hidden facilities. Soldiers boarded vessels that would carry them to battles light years from home. Engineers made final adjustments to weapons that had never been tested in combat. In space, the human fleet began its deployment. Ships that had been waiting in silence for decades activated their engines and moved toward the outer rim. Their stealth systems made them invisible to conventional sensors. Their crews had trained their entire lives for this mission. Captain Steve Martinez stood on the bridge of the UES Retribution and watched stars wheel past the viewports. Somewhere in that darkness, alien ships moved toward Earth with conquest on their minds. They thought they were facing another weak galactic civilization. They were about to learn the difference between hunting prey and fighting predators, all. Ships report ready, Captain, his tactical officer announced. Set course for the Kepler 442 system, Steve ordered. Maximum stealth. We have aliens to kill. The human fleet disappeared into the void, carrying with it the hopes of an entire species and weapons designed to bring death to enemies that had never known defeat. Operation Starfall had begun. Behind them, Earth continued its peaceful rotation. Around the sun, children played in parks. Adults went to work. Life continued as normal, while the planet's defenders raced through space toward the greatest battle in human history. In 8 months, the galaxy would know that humanity had arrived. Today, the journey toward that revelation began. The Kepler 442 system had been peaceful for 3,000 years. Its single inhabited world was home to mining operations that supplied weapons to the galactic resistance. Massive orbital platforms processed rare metals, while cargo ships carried finished products to desperate defense forces across the galaxy. It was exactly the kind of target that attracted Zephyrian attention. Warlord Kethvar's advance fleet dropped out of hyperspace with the confidence of predators approaching helpless prey. 200 ships arranged themselves in standard attack. Formation around the system's outer edge. Energy shields hummed with power. Weapon systems charged for another easy conquest. Scan the system, Kethvar ordered from his flagship's bridge. Identify military assets and begin target selection. General Thexmar studied the sensor displays with satisfaction. Standard defensive layout, my lord. Orbital weapon platforms around the inhabited world. A small fleet of escort vessels. Nothing that can threaten us. The Zephyrian battle plan was always the same. Disable the orbital defenses first. Destroy any military vessels. Land ground forces to secure valuable assets. Strip mine anything useful and move on to the next target. Simple, efficient, unstoppable. Begin the attack, Kethvar commanded. The Zephyrian fleet moved forward with deadly grace. Beam weapons reached across space to strike defensive platforms. Energy shields flared and died under sustained bombardment. Local defenders fired back with desperate courage, but their weapons couldn't penetrate Zephyrian armor. It should have been over in 30 minutes. Instead, something impossible happened. Space around the Zephyrian fleet suddenly filled with projectiles moving at incredible speed. Not energy beams or plasma bolts, but solid chunks of metal traveling at 10% of light speed. The projectiles punched through Zephyrian shields as if they didn't exist and tore massive holes in armored hulls. "What are those weapons?" Thexmar shouted as his flagship shuddered under impact. "Unknown," the sensor operator replied. "The projectiles are solid matter, but they're moving faster than anything in our databases." On the other side of the system, Admiral Jake Morrison watched the battle from the bridge of the UES Retribution. Captain Steve Martinez had positioned the human fleet perfectly, using the system's asteroid belt for concealment. The Zephyrians had no idea they were under attack until the first railgun rounds hit their ships. "All batteries, continuous fire," Steve ordered. "Target their larger vessels first." The human dreadnought's 12 railgun batteries fired in sequence, sending tungsten projectiles across millions of kilometers of space. Each round carried the kinetic energy of a small nuclear weapon. When they hit Zephyrian ships, the results were devastating. "Sir, enemy vessels are attempting to return fire," the tactical officer reported. "Let them try," Jake replied grimly. "Their beam weapons can't lock onto our stealth systems." The Zephyrians fired desperately at targets they couldn't see clearly. Their sensors detected mass and heat signatures, but the human stealth technology bent sensor beams around the ships. It was like trying to hit ghosts that struck back with deadly precision. Commander Tony Fisher led the fighter attack from his squadron of 30 vessels. Unlike the elegant craft used by other galactic civilizations, human fighters looked like flying weapons, all angles and armor with engines that could accelerate faster than anything the Zephyrians had encountered. Wolfpack 1, begin attack. "Run," Tony transmitted to his pilots. "Remember, these aren't training simulations. Kill everything that moves." The human fighters dove toward the Zephyrian formation, using tactics that seemed insane to conventional military thinking. Instead of maintaining formation and exchanging fire at long range, they used asteroids for cover and approached at point-blank range. Their weapons were designed for close combat: electromagnetic pulse cannons that could disable entire ships, quantum torpedoes that phased through armor and exploded inside enemy vessels. "This is impossible!" Thexmar screamed as another Zephyrian cruiser exploded. "No species fights like this!" Kethvar watched in growing horror as his fleet died around him. In 20 minutes of combat, he had lost 60 ships. The enemy was using weapons and tactics that no Zephyrian commander had ever encountered. Worse, his own weapons seemed almost useless against them. "Order all ships to retreat," he commanded. "Sir, the enemy fighters are conducting suicide runs." Kethvar looked at the tactical display and felt something he had never experienced before: fear. Human fighters were ramming his battleships, their pilots choosing death over retreat. The small vessels carried nuclear warheads that detonated on impact, taking Zephyrian ships 10 times their size into destruction with them. "Get us out of here," he shouted. The surviving Zephyrian ships activated their hyperspace drives and fled the system. Behind them, they left 90 destroyed vessels and over 2 million dead crew members. It was the first defeat in Zephyrian military history. On the UES Retribution, Admiral Morrison surveyed the aftermath of the battle. Scattered debris marked the positions where alien ships had died. The local defenders were silent, probably shocked by what they had witnessed. "Damage report," he asked Captain Martinez. "Minimal, sir. We lost 8 fighters, but all major vessels are intact. The Zephyrians never managed to target us effectively." Jake nodded. The battle had gone exactly as planned. Human weapons and tactics had proven superior to Zephyrian technology. More importantly, they had demonstrated that the alien empire could be defeated. "Open a channel to the system defenders," he ordered. The main screen activated to show an alien face Jake didn't recognize. The being had blue skin and large eyes that stared in amazement. This is Admiral Morrison of the Earth Defense Force. Your system is secure. Earth? The alien responded. We've never heard of your species. How did you defeat the Zephyrians? We fought back, Jake replied simply. Something your people might want to consider. Throughout the galaxy, news of the Kepler 442 battle spread like wildfire. For the first time since the Zephyrian expansion began, an alien fleet had been defeated, not just stopped or delayed, but completely destroyed. A species that had conquered 17 star systems had been beaten by unknown aliens from a system called Sol. On his fleeing flagship, Warlord Kethvar tried to make sense of what had happened. The enemy had used solid projectiles instead of energy weapons. They had employed stealth technology that rendered his sensors useless. Their fighters had attacked with suicidal courage that no Zephyrian could understand. General Thexmar, analyze the battle recordings. I want to know everything about these humans. Yes, my lord. What are your orders regarding future operations? Kethvar stared at the stars ahead of his fleet. For 3 years, he had been the terror of the galaxy. Now, for the first time, he was the one running from battle. Recall all advance units. We need to understand this enemy before we engage them again. He was already too late. Across the galaxy, human ships were moving into position. Earth's secret fleet was preparing to turn hunters into prey. The age of Zephyrian dominance was about to end. The galaxy just didn't know it yet. News of the Kepler 442 victory spread across galactic communication networks faster than the speed of light. On enslaved worlds throughout Zephyrian space, prisoners looked up at alien guards with new hope in their eyes. Resistance cells that had been planning desperate last stands suddenly began organizing coordinated attacks. The impossible had happened. The Zephyrian Empire could be defeated. Captain Beth Andrews received the liberation orders while her stealth ship drifted in the shadow of an asteroid near the prison world of Nexus 7. For 6 months, she had watched Zephyrian guards brutalize captured civilians from a dozen different species. Today, those guards would learn what human justice looked like. Sergeant Torres, are the charges ready? She asked her demolitions expert. Sergeant Mike Torres checked his equipment one final time. Chemical explosives that wouldn't register on Zephyrian sensors. Timer devices built with mechanical components instead of electronics. Weapons designed to work in any environment without depending on power sources that could be detected or disabled. All set, Captain. 24 charges placed around their main power generator. When they blow, the whole facility goes dark. Lieutenant Sarah Kim monitored alien communications from her position at the ship's sensor station. Guard rotations are proceeding normally. They have no idea we're here. Beth smiled grimly. The Zephyrians had grown careless during their 3-year conquest spree. They expected defeated enemies to stay defeated. They had never dealt with an opponent that struck back after losing a battle. Begin the operation, she ordered. The human team moved through space like deadly shadows. Their armor was designed to absorb sensor waves, and their movements were synchronized to avoid detection patterns. They had trained for this mission for years, practicing on mock facilities until every step was automatic. The first explosion lit up the prison complex like a small star. Emergency lighting failed as secondary systems overloaded. In the confusion that followed, more explosions destroyed guard towers, communication arrays, and vehicle hangars. Within minutes, the most secure prison in Zephyrian space was reduced to chaos. Beth led her team through the facility's corridors, using night vision systems to navigate in total darkness. Zephyrian guards stumbled around blindly, their energy Weapons useless without power to charge them, human soldiers moved past them like ghosts, striking with silent efficiency. "Cell Block 7 is secure," Torres reported over the radio. "Releasing prisoners now." "Communications array destroyed," Kim added. "They can't call for reinforcements." The liberated prisoners were a mix of species from across the galaxy. Scientists, soldiers, civilians who had been in the wrong place. When Zephyrian forces arrived, all had suffered under alien cruelty. All had given up hope of rescue. "Who are you?" asked Dr. Zentar, an Andromedian physicist who had been captured during the fall of his homeworld. "Earth Defense Force," Beth replied. "We're here to get you out." "Earth? I've never heard of your species." "You will," Beth promised. "Everyone in the galaxy will." The rescue operation took 4 hours. Human ships evacuated over 3,000 prisoners, while demolition teams destroyed everything of military value in the facility. When Zephyrian reinforcements finally arrived, they found empty buildings and a message written in their own language on the main wall. "Humanity remembers." Humanity comes for you. Similar operations were taking place throughout Zephyrian space. Human special forces struck at prison camps, supply depots, and isolated outposts. They moved like phantoms, appearing without warning and vanishing before enemy reinforcements could arrive. Each attack followed the same pattern: free prisoners, gather intelligence, destroy everything useful to the enemy, and leave psychological warfare messages. The messages were Dr. Amy Watson's idea. Working with liberated alien scientists, she had developed a psychological profile of Zephyrian leadership. They were apex predators who had never experienced fear. The key to defeating them was making them afraid. "Terror is a weapon," she explained to Admiral Morrison during a classified briefing. "The Zephyrians understand only strength and weakness. We need to show them that we're stronger than they are." Amy's research had revealed critical information about Zephyrian biology and culture. They were pack hunters who relied on intimidation and overwhelming force. Their entire military doctrine was based on the assumption that enemies would surrender after suffering minimal losses. They had no contingency plans for dealing with opponents who fought to the death. "What about their command structure?" Jake asked. "Highly centralized. Warlord Kethvar makes all strategic decisions. His subordinates follow orders without question. If we can make him doubt his own capabilities, the entire invasion force will become unstable." The psychological warfare campaign was already showing results. Intercepted Zephyrian communications revealed growing anxiety among their commanders. Units that had conquered worlds with ease were now afraid to leave their ships. Patrols reported seeing human vessels that vanished when approached. Supply convoys requested escort vessels for routes that had been secure for years. Captain Kelly Rogers specialized in making Zephyrian commanders nervous. Her stealth corps operated behind enemy lines, gathering intelligence and conducting sabotage operations. They moved through alien-controlled space like invisible predators, striking without warning and disappearing before anyone could respond. "Target confirmed," she whispered into her communications device. "Zephyrian supply depot on asteroid Gamma 7. Minimal security. Perfect for a demonstration." Kelly's team had been tracking this supply convoy for 3 days. The Zephyrians were moving weapons and ammunition to forward bases near human space. They expected the route to be secure because no known species had the technology to penetrate their sensor networks. They were wrong. Human stealth systems used quantum field manipulation to bend sensor waves around their ships. To Zephyrian sensors, the invisible vessels were holes in space where nothing existed. The technology had been developed specifically to fight alien enemies who relied on conventional detection methods. "Begin approach," Kelly ordered. The human assault team moved toward the asteroid base using thruster patterns that mimicked natural space debris. Their ship's hull was coated with materials that absorbed electromagnetic radiation. Even if Zephyrian sensors detected them, the readings would look like a piece of floating rock. The attack lasted 15 minutes. Explosives destroyed fuel storage, tanks. Magnetic pulse devices disabled electronic systems. Chemical weapons contaminated food supplies. When it was over, the supply depot was a smoking ruin, and its defenders were dead or unconscious. Kelly's team vanished back into space, leaving behind another message in Zephyrian script. "We are watching. We are coming. Run!" Throughout the galaxy, similar operations continued day and night. Human forces struck at targets of opportunity while larger fleet units prepared for major battles. The psychological effect was exactly what Dr. Watson had predicted. Zephyrian morale dropped as their commanders realized they were fighting an enemy that operated by unknown rules. On his flagship, Warlord Kethvar studied intelligence reports with growing frustration. His forces were being attacked by an enemy they couldn't see clearly. Human weapons used principles that Zephyrian science didn't understand. Human tactics violated every accepted rule of galactic warfare. "How many facilities have been attacked?" he asked General Thexmar. 47 in the past month, my lord. Prison camps, supply depots, communication stations, they seem to target anything of strategic value. Casualties, over 10,000 dead, many more wounded or missing. Morale among our forces is declining. Kethvar felt anger building in his chest. For 3 years, his empire had expanded without significant resistance. Now, a species he had never heard of was turning his own tactics against him. They struck without warning and disappeared before his forces could respond. Double security at all installations. Increase patrol frequency. I want these humans found and destroyed. Yes, my lord. However, our intelligence suggests they're preparing for a larger operation. Fleet movements indicate they're concentrating forces near the industrial complex at Nexus Prime. Kethvar smiled, showing his sharp teeth. If the humans wanted a direct confrontation, he would give them one. His main battle fleet was 10 times larger than anything they had shown so far. It was time to end this irritation permanently. He had no idea that he was walking into the largest trap in galactic history. Nexus Prime had been the industrial heart of 3 star systems before the Zephyrian invasion. Its massive orbital factories produced weapons, ships, and equipment for dozens of galactic civilizations. When alien forces captured the complex, they gained control of manufacturing capabilities that supplied their entire war machine. Taking it back would cripple their expansion efforts. Admiral Jake Morrison stood in the war room aboard the UES Retribution, studying holographic displays that showed the most complex military operation in human history. Over 400 ships from Earth's secret fleet had assembled for this assault. Every major vessel humanity had built was committed to the battle. "Colonel Parker, intelligence update," he requested. Colonel Lisa Parker activated the tactical display, showing Zephyrian defensive positions around Nexus Prime. Enemy forces include 800 warships arranged in 3 defensive lines. They've positioned their strongest units around the manufacturing facilities. Intelligence suggests Warlord Kethvar is personally commanding the defense. Jake nodded. The Zephyrian leader had finally decided to face human forces directly. This battle would determine whether humanity could stand against the full power of an alien empire, or if Earth would become another conquered world. Captain Scott, status on the captured ships? Captain Ryan Scott had spent the past month retrofitting Zephyrian vessels with human weapons systems. His engineering teams had worked around the clock to install railguns, quantum torpedoes, and electromagnetic pulse cannons on alien hulls. The hybrid warships combined Zephyrian speed and armor with human firepower. 24 enemy vessels are now operational under our control, Ryan reported. Their crews are volunteers from liberated prison camps. Motivation levels are extremely high. The liberated prisoners had jumped at the chance to fight their former captors. Scientists who had been forced to work in Zephyrian laboratories, soldiers who had watched their homeworlds burn, civilians who had lost everything to alien conquest. All were eager to strike back at the empire that had destroyed their lives. Major Coleman, ground force readiness? Major Danny Coleman commanded. The largest human military operation ever attempted. His first orbital strike battalion had been reinforced with volunteers from a dozen species. The assault force included 20,000 soldiers equipped with the most advanced weapons Earth could produce. All units are ready for deployment, sir. We've been drilling with mixed species teams for the past month. Integration is proceeding smoothly. Danny's soldiers were different from any military force the galaxy had seen before. Human tactical doctrine emphasized speed, aggression, and adaptability. They trained to fight in any environment against any enemy. Their equipment was designed to function without external power sources or electronic support systems. "Begin the assault," Jake ordered. The human fleet moved toward Nexus Prime in a formation that confused Zephyrian observers. Instead of traditional battle lines, they advanced in small groups that scattered and reformed unpredictably. Their ships used active camouflage and electronic countermeasures to create false sensor readings. Warlord Kethvar watched the approaching fleet from his command ship with satisfaction. The humans had finally committed their full force to a direct assault. He could destroy them all in one decisive battle and end their annoying raids. "All batteries prepare to fire," he commanded. "Target the largest vessels first." The Zephyrian defense fleet opened fire with thousands of energy weapons. Beams of destructive force reached across space toward human ships. It should have been the end of Earth's resistance. Instead, the beams passed harmlessly through holographic projections, while the real human ships attacked from unexpected angles. Captain Ryan Scott's engineering teams had developed advanced hologram technology that created perfect false targets. Half the Zephyrian fleet was shooting at illusions. "What is happening?" Kethvar screamed as human railgun rounds began punching holes in his ships. "Unknown, my lord," General Thexmar replied. "Our sensors show multiple targets, but our weapons aren't hitting anything." The human attack came from 6 different directions, simultaneously. Real ships emerged from behind asteroids and space debris where they had been hiding. The retrofitted Zephyrian vessels struck from within the enemy formation, their crews fighting with the fury of the oppressed. Human fighters conducted suicide runs against command ships, their pilots choosing death over defeat. "Sir, enemy forces are boarding our vessels," a Zephyrian officer reported. Major Coleman's assault troops were using a tactic that no alien species had ever attempted. Instead of trying to destroy enemy ships, they were capturing them. Human soldiers in powered armor cut through alien hulls and fought their way to critical systems. They disabled engines, destroyed weapon controls, and captured command centers. The humans fought like nothing the Zephyrians had encountered. They used explosive charges where other species used energy weapons. They employed close combat techniques, that turned starship corridors into battlefields. They showed no mercy to enemies who had shown no mercy to others. "Deck 7 is secure," Danny reported over his radio, moving to the engine room. His soldiers advanced through the alien ship like unstoppable machines. Their armor could survive in vacuum, and their weapons could penetrate any known material. More importantly, they fought with the determination of beings who knew their entire species depended on victory. The battle for Nexus Prime lasted 18 hours. When it ended, the Zephyrian defensive fleet was destroyed and the industrial complex was under human control. Warlord Kethvar's flagship was a burning wreck, and the alien leader himself was fleeing toward the Outer Rim with the scattered remains of his forces. "Casualty report," Jake requested from the bridge of the UES Retribution. 76 ships damaged, 12 destroyed, Captain Steve Martinez replied. "Human casualties are within acceptable limits. Enemy losses are total." Jake studied the tactical display showing the captured industrial complex. The massive orbital factories were intact and already being secured by human forces. The manufacturing capabilities would be invaluable for the next phase of operations. "Colonel Parker, begin intelligence analysis of captured facilities. I want to know everything about Zephyrian technology and production capabilities." "Yes, sir. Preliminary reports suggest their manufacturing systems are more advanced than we expected. With proper modifications, we could increase our fleet size by 300%. The implications were staggering. Humanity had captured the largest industrial complex in Zephyrian space. They could now produce ships and weapons using alien technology combined with human innovations. The balance of power in the galaxy was shifting. Throughout known space, the news of Nexus Prime's liberation spread like wildfire. The Galactic Council, which had been preparing for total surrender, suddenly began planning counterattacks. Resistance movements on occupied worlds launched. Coordinated uprisings. The Zephyrian Empire was no longer expanding. It was contracting. Admiral Veltash of the Andromedian Defense Corps received the news aboard his flagship near the galactic core. For the first time in 3 years, he allowed himself to hope. The humans had done something no other species had: managed. They had stopped Zephyrian expansion and captured their most important industrial facility. "Communications. Open a channel to the human fleet," he ordered. The transmission reached Admiral Morrison several hours later. Veltash's image appeared on the main screen, showing an alien face marked by years of defeat and desperation. "Admiral Morrison, I am Admiral Veltash of the Andromedian Defense Corps. On behalf of the Galactic Council, I request permission to discuss military cooperation." Jake considered the request. Humanity had proven it could fight the Zephyrians alone, but the war was far from over. Allied support would be valuable for the campaigns ahead. "Permission granted, Admiral. Welcome to the Resistance." For the first time since the Zephyrian invasion began, the galaxy had hope. Earth had arrived with weapons, tactics, and determination that could defeat the alien empire. The hunt for human space had become a war for galactic freedom, and humanity intended to win. The war room aboard the UES Retribution had become the nerve center for the largest military alliance in galactic history. Representatives from 47 different species worked alongside human officers, planning the final assault on Zephyrian space. Admiral Jake Morrison stood before a massive holographic display showing enemy positions throughout their shrinking empire. Intelligence reports confirm that Warlord Kethvar has withdrawn all remaining forces to the Zephyrian homeworld. Colonel Lisa Parker announced to the assembled commanders. "He's making his last stand." General Carl Brooks studied the tactical data with professional interest. The Zephyrian homeworld of Zeftar was protected by the largest defensive network ever constructed. Orbital battle stations surrounded the fall, planet like deadly moons. Energy shields covered the entire system. The remaining alien fleet, over 2,000 ships, waited in defensive formations. "What about their ultimate weapon?" asked Admiral Veltash, representing the Galactic Council forces. Lisa activated a new display showing technical specifications that made everyone in the room nervous. "Intelligence from captured facilities confirms its existence. They call it the Star Killer. It can destroy entire solar systems by destabilizing stellar cores." The room fell silent. A weapon that could destroy stars was beyond anything the galaxy had imagined. If the Zephyrians were desperate enough to use it, they could take billions of lives with them in defeat. "Dr. Watson's team has been analyzing the weapon's operating principles," Jake said. "Amy, brief us on countermeasures." Dr. Amy Watson activated her laptop and shared her research with the holographic system. The Star Killer uses quantum resonance to disrupt stellar fusion reactions. However, the process requires precise calibration and continuous power input. If we can disrupt their control systems, the weapon becomes useless. "How do we get close enough?" General Brooks asked. "Their defenses are designed to stop fleet-sized attacks." Captain Kelly Rogers stepped forward. Her stealth corps had been conducting reconnaissance missions in Zephyrian space for months. "My teams have identified a weakness. The weapons control center is located on the planet's surface. If we can insert special forces teams during the main assault, we can disable it." Jake nodded. The plan was dangerous, but feasible. Human stealth. Technology had proven superior to Zephyrian sensors throughout the war. A small team might succeed where a large fleet would fail. "Captain Scott, status on fleet preparations?" Captain Ryan Scott had been working around the clock to prepare humanity's expanded fleet for the final battle. The captured industrial facilities at Nexus Prime were producing ships at an incredible rate. Human technology combined with alien manufacturing capabilities created vessels that were superior to anything either species had built alone. "We have 800 ships ready for combat," Ryan reported. "Half are pure human design, half are hybrid vessels using captured Zephyrian hulls. All are equipped with our latest weapons systems." The human fleet had grown beyond all expectations. Captured alien vessels had been retrofitted with railguns and quantum torpedoes. New ships incorporated design elements from a dozen different species. The result was a military force that combined the best technologies the galaxy had to offer. "Allied. Fleet status?" Jake asked Admiral Veltash. 600 ships from the Galactic Council," the Andromedian replied. "Morale is high. For the first time in 3 years, we believe victory is possible." The Allied force represented every major galactic civilization that remained free. Andromedian crystal ships with their precision beam weapons, Draxian battle cruisers built for close combat, Kalari stealth vessels equipped with ancient technologies. All were united under human leadership to end the Zephyrian threat forever. "Begin final deployment," Jake ordered. Across human space, the largest military operation in galactic history began moving toward its target. 1,400 ships from dozens of species converged on the Zephyrian homeworld. Support vessels carried supplies, reinforcements, and repair facilities. Hospital ships prepared to treat casualties from the coming battle. On the planet's surface, Warlord Kethvar watched the approaching fleet with grim satisfaction. His empire was finished, but he would make the galaxy pay for its victory. The Star Killer weapon was fully charged and ready to fire. If he could not rule the galaxy, he would destroy it. General Thexmar, prepare the Star Killer for activation, he commanded. Yes, my lord. Target selection? Kethvar smiled, showing his sharp teeth one final time. The human homeworld. Sol system. If they want to play with predators, they should learn the price of failure. Deep beneath the planet's surface, ancient machines began warming up systems that could crack stars like eggs. Energy levels rose to staggering heights as the weapon prepared to reach across space and murder an entire solar system. Earth, with its billions of inhabitants, would become the Zephyrian Empire's final victim. The Allied fleet dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Zeftar system and immediately came under massive bombardment. Orbital defense platforms opened fire with weapons designed to stop invasion fleets. Energy beams and plasma bolts filled space with deadly light. Several ships died in the first few minutes of combat. All ships begin attack pattern Omega. Jake transmitted from the UES Retribution. Remember, this is for every world they destroyed. The human ships moved into formations that confused Zephyrian defenders. Instead of advancing in traditional battle lines, they scattered into small groups that attacked from multiple directions. Their weapons reached across space to strike targets with precision that seemed impossible at such range. Captain Steve. Martinez commanded the flagship's weapons with deadly efficiency. All railgun batteries, continuous fire. Target their largest orbital platforms. Tungsten projectiles traveling at relativistic speeds punched through Zephyrian shields and armor like paper. Explosions lit up the darkness as defensive installations died under human firepower. Allied ships followed the human lead, their own weapons adding to the destruction. Sir, enemy fleet is moving to intercept, the tactical officer reported. The remaining Zephyrian warships launched from their defensive positions with desperate courage. 2,000 vessels against 1,400, but the numbers were deceiving. Human technology and tactics had proven superior throughout the war. This battle would be no different. Fighter combat filled the space between the main fleets. Human pilots in their angular craft fought alongside alien allies in ships of every design. They faced Zephyrian fighters with the fury of beings who had watched their worlds burn. The battle was fierce but one-sided. Human fighters were faster, more maneuverable, and piloted by crews who preferred death to defeat. Major Danny Coleman's assault troops prepared for the most dangerous mission of the war. His teams would land on the planet's surface during the space battle and fight their way to the Starkiller Control Center. Success meant victory. Failure meant the destruction of Earth. All teams, check your equipment, he ordered over the radio. Remember, we're not just fighting for Earth. We're fighting for every species in the galaxy. His soldiers checked their weapons one final time. Electromagnetic rifles that could disable any electronic system. Explosive charges that used chemical reactions instead of energy sources. Close combat weapons designed for fighting in any environment. They were the best humanity could produce, facing the most important mission in galactic history. Dropships ready for launch, the pilot announced. Take us in, Danny commanded. The human assault force launched toward the planet's surface, while the space battle raged overhead. Their ships used stealth technology and electronic countermeasures to avoid detection. Everything depended on reaching the Star Killer before it could fire. Behind them, the Allied fleet fought with desperate determination. Victory was within reach, but defeat could still destroy everything they had worked to protect. The fate of the galaxy hung in the balance, as human soldiers raced toward the most dangerous weapon ever created. The Star Killer facility was buried 3 miles beneath the surface of Zeftar, protected by layers of armor and defensive systems. Major Danny Coleman led his assault team through corridors that seemed designed to intimidate invaders. The walls were covered with carved images of Zephyrian conquests. Thousands of alien species knelt before warrior figures that looked like Warlord Kethvar. "Motion sensors ahead," Sergeant Mike Torres warned, studying his scanner readings. "Multiple defensive positions." "Standard suppression tactics," Danny ordered. "Torres, clear the path. Kim, jam their communications." The human soldiers moved through the facility like a force of nature. Their electromagnetic weapons disabled Zephyrian electronics before the aliens could activate their defenses. Chemical explosives destroyed blast doors and defensive barriers. In 30 minutes, they had fought their way deeper into the complex than any invasion force in Zephyrian history. Above them, the space battle reached its climax. Admiral Jake Morrison watched from the bridge of the UES Retribution as the last Zephyrian orbital platforms died under Allied firepower. The enemy fleet was scattered and broken. Warlord Kethvar's flagship was surrounded and taking heavy damage. "Sir, we're receiving a transmission from the planet's surface," the communications officer reported. "Put it through," Jake ordered. Warlord Kethvar's image appeared on the main screen. The alien leader looked older than before, his purple skin marked with fresh scars. His yellow eyes burned with hatred as he spoke. "Admiral Morrison, you have destroyed my empire, but you cannot stop what comes next. The Starkiller is charging. Your homeworld will die, and the galaxy will remember that none escaped Zephyrian justice. The war is over, Kethvar. Surrender now and spare your remaining people." The alien warlord laughed, a sound like breaking glass. "Surrender, you pathetic. Mammals still don't understand. We are apex predators. We do not surrender. We take our enemies with us into death." The transmission ended, and Jake turned to his tactical officer. "Status on Major Coleman's mission?" Last report was 20 minutes ago. They were advancing toward the weapon control center. Deep in the Starkiller facility, Danny's team reached the final barrier. A massive blast door blocked access to the weapons control center. Beyond it, ancient machines hummed with enough power to crack stars. Warning lights flashed as energy levels rose toward critical levels. "Torres, can you breach it?" Danny asked. Mike Torres studied the door with professional interest. "It's thick, but I've got enough explosive to punch through. Give me 5 minutes." Lieutenant Sarah Kim monitored enemy communications from her portable station. "Danny, I'm picking up activation sequences. The weapon is starting its firing cycle. How long do we have? Based on the power buildup, maybe 10 minutes before it reaches Earth." Danny felt cold fear in his chest. His home world, with its blue skies and green forests, was about to be murdered by an alien weapon. Every human who had ever lived would die unless his team could stop the Starkiller. "Torres, we need that door open now." "Working on it." Mike attached his largest explosive charge to the barrier and set the timer. "Everyone back!" The explosion shook the entire facility. Dust and debris filled the air as the blast door cracked and fell inward. Beyond it lay the weapon control center, a vast chamber filled with machines that defied human understanding. Energy fields danced between massive crystalline structures. At the center of it all, a holographic display showed the Sol system targeted for destruction. Zephyrian technicians worked frantically at control stations, trying to complete the firing sequence before the invaders could stop them. They turned toward the human soldiers with weapons in their claws, but electromagnetic pulses from human rifles disabled their equipment before they could fire. "Kim, can you shut it down?" Danny asked. Sarah connected her portable computer to the alien systems and began analyzing the weapon's programming. "The control systems are incredibly complex. I need time to understand how they work." "Time we don't have," Danny replied, watching the energy readouts climb toward critical levels. On the surface, Dr. Amy Watson monitored the situation from her mobile laboratory. She had spent months studying captured Zephyrian technology, learning how their quantum systems operated. The Starkiller was the ultimate expression of their science, but it had one critical weakness. "Danny, this is Dr. Watson," she transmitted, to the assault team. "The weapon uses quantum entanglement to focus energy across interstellar distances. If you can reverse the quantum polarity, it will turn the energy back on itself." "How do we do that?" "Look for a crystalline matrix at the center of the control room. It should be glowing with blue light. If you can overload it with electromagnetic energy, the feedback will destroy the weapon." Danny looked around the control chamber and spotted the device Amy had described. A massive crystal formation pulsed with inner light at the heart of the Starkiller system. Energy flowed through it like water through a pipe, building toward the moment when death would reach across space to Earth. "Torres, can you overload that crystal?" Mike studied the alien device with his demolitions expert's eye. "Not with explosives, but if I can get close enough, I might be able to short-circuit it with an electromagnetic grenade." "Do it!" Mike Torres ran toward the crystal. Matrix as Zephyrian guards opened fire with energy weapons. Human soldiers provided covering fire while he attached his last electromagnetic device to the alien technology. The grenade was designed to disable electronics, but no one knew what would happen when it detonated inside a Starkiller control system. "Grenade armed!" Mike shouted. "Everyone take cover!" The explosion was unlike anything they had ever seen. Electromagnetic energy merged with quantum forces in ways that violated known physics. The crystal matrix overloaded and began feeding energy back into the weapon's power core. Instead of reaching across space to destroy Earth, the Starkiller began tearing itself apart. On his flagship, Warlord Kethvar watched in horror as his ultimate weapon died. Energy readings spiked beyond all safety limits before dropping to 0. The Starkiller, which should have been destroying the human homeworld, was now a useless collection of broken machinery. "Impossible," he whispered. Admiral Morrison's voice came over the communication system. "This is Admiral Morrison to all Zephyrian forces. Your weapon is destroyed. Your fleet is defeated. Surrender now or be destroyed." For the first time in his life, Kethvar felt something he had never experienced before. Despair. His empire was finished. His people were defeated. The apex predators of the galaxy had been beaten by mammals from an unknown star system. "I surrender," he said quietly. The formal surrender took place aboard Admiral Morrison's flagship. Representatives from every allied species witnessed as Warlord Kethvar signed the documents that ended the Zephyrian Empire's reign of terror. The alien leader looked broken and old as he accepted responsibility for 3 years of galactic war. Katamin. "Terms are simple," Jake explained. "All occupied worlds will be liberated. All slave populations will be freed. Your military forces will be disbanded, and your leaders will face trial for war crimes." Kethvar nodded without speaking. The predator who had terrorized the galaxy was now just a defeated alien facing the consequences of his actions. 6 months later, the galaxy was a very different place. Earth had emerged as a major galactic power, not through conquest, but through liberation. Human ships patrolled former Zephyrian space, protecting rebuilding civilizations and ensuring that such a war never happened again. Captain Steve Martinez stood on the bridge of his new command, the UES Liberator, watching cargo ships deliver supplies to a recovering colony world. He had been promoted to admiral and tasked with training a new multi-species defense force. The galaxy would never again be defenseless against conquest. "Sir, we're receiving a message from Earth," his communications officer reported. "President." Martin Hughes appeared on the main screen, smiling from the Oval Office. "Admiral Martinez, congratulations on the successful completion of Operation Freedom. The colonists you're protecting want to send their thanks to Earth." "Just doing our job, Mr. President. The galaxy is finally safe." "For now," Martin replied. "But we'll be ready if anyone else decides to threaten innocent civilizations." The transmission ended, and Steve looked out at the stars. Somewhere in that darkness, new threats might be building. New empires might be planning conquest, but they would find the galaxy different than before. Earth had arrived, and humanity would never let another species suffer under alien tyranny. The age of human protection had begun, and the galaxy was grateful for it. Sometimes the most dangerous predator was exactly what the galaxy needed.